Hey, you may not be able to see me very well. I'm outside, but we are literally in the dark. Oh, hey, we're just using like lights from our phone. Thanks, Juan. Oh my goodness. So there was a rainstorm and lightning, and the power went out. And so our building and the building next to us was without power. The other buildings around us had power, but we have no power. So, that's something I didn't think about in traveling, like bringing emergency supplies. Or if you lose power or you're like in a big storm or something. So that's just something to think about. So today, because of the big storm, we did make it to church this morning, which was awesome. But then we were stuck inside, so we thought maybe we'd try to make up for yesterday and go to the Plaza Botero this afternoon. But we didn't make it, so we watched some movies, we read some books, we played some games. When the power totally went out, there was no more movies. But so here we are. We're probably gonna go to bed soon because there's not much else to do when you're stuck in the dark. So have a good night, y'all. So I thought I would take a little time to talk about bonding in this video, as you know, we're in the bonding week. And to follow up from when the power went out, we did end up just having like sandwiches, normal cold food because we couldn't cook anything. We had sandwiches, and then we went to bed early, and probably like 2 in the morning the power came back on, and of course we forgot to turn stuff off, so at 2 in the morning everything came back on. And so we're running around the house trying to turn stuff off and go back to bed. So that was an interesting experience there. But so bonding, I mentioned about kind of what happens during the bonding week, but I want to speak specifically about bonding itself, because while you're given a week to bond, that doesn't mean that you are going to actually be able to bond and connect with each other. You might feel like you have a little bit of an easier time with it if you hosted the child and you're able to have a connection then. But I also want to bring up the difference between connecting and bonding. And I think the best way to illustrate that is through our own experience. So starting with our daughter Paula, when she came for hosting, I would say that we all connected with each other pretty quickly. She, I think, definitely felt like she connected with James a lot quicker or a lot stronger than she did with me. She liked me, but I don't know that she really felt that connection right away. In fact, I know she didn't. And so, however, me and James, I think we felt like pretty much from the start that we bonded with her. We felt like we were her parents. And so during hosting, Paula really connected with James. She liked me. She kind of connected with me. And then me and James really bonded with her. Then when we adopted and we were in Colombia and we had time with her, again, I came out first and visited with her, and she liked me. She hung out with me. But it wasn't until James came that you could tell like a difference in her. She lit up more. There was more of that connection there. And then after the adoption, when she came home, that bonding between her and James really took effect really quick. Well, probably within, I'd say, the 2 months. She definitely
identified as James's daughter, and he was her dad, and there was that bonding. For me and her, now again, on my side, I felt bonded to her, but she didn't so much to me for quite a while. And she started to first connect with me more and more, and it took a long time. And I'm telling you, it took a really long time. I think it took for her to actually be able to bond with me as me being her mother, her really feeling like I was her mother and she was my daughter. I think it took about 2 years. So, you know, the 1 week, while it's nice to have, it's not, you know, you can't go out of the bonding week and go sit down with ICBF and then say, oh, I just feel like we're not bonding, you know, because it's 1 week is a drop in the bucket. And the way that you are going to bond and connect with your natural born children versus an adoptive child is going to be totally different, and everyone's going to do it differently. Now, Juan, you know, is a different story. I would say that he has definitely connected with both me and Paula. Paula has connected with him. I have connected with him, and I would say I feel that maternal bond, you know. Now, when it comes to Juan and James, it's a little bit different story. They like each other, but as far as, I mean, they haven't even really been able to connect, let alone bond, you know, unfortunately. And part of that has to do with the fact that when we hosted Juan, James was away on a military training for about half of it. And so he just, and then of course when he got back, he was still having to go to work for some of those days that Juan was there with us. And then this time, being out here, after about just a week, James had to go back home. He couldn't stay out for the whole time, again, because of his work. So there just hasn't been a whole lot of time when they've been able to be together and connect. So it's going to be a little bit more, take a little bit more time, and it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge. You know, I have heard of some families, and it's really tragic, where they've adopted, and even after years they still feel like they haven't bonded for whatever reason, and they're having all kinds of troubles, and you know, I even heard one dad say that he even wished that they hadn't adopted, and you know, that just breaks my heart. But you know, you got to realize that this is a person that's already partially grown. They're not a baby that's been born into your family, and they're going to come with all kinds of their own thoughts and baggage and feelings about things, and sometimes you're not going to connect in the way that you feel like you should. Sometimes you're not going to bond in the way that you should. Like, that connection and that bond may not actually ever end up being like a mother or a father bond or connection. It might be more like an aunt or an uncle kind of connection, or a really good friend kind of connection. And that's something that's really hard for parents to accept. And I know, as it took 2 years for Paula to be able to connect to me as a mom, while I saw myself as her mom, I had to accept and let her see me as more like a sister or a really good friend. I had to let her go, essentially, and let her see me that way, so that then she could, in her own time, begin to see me as something more. And, you know, I'm grateful if she did, but not every child is going to be like that. So, yeah, so those are some of my thoughts on bonding. I hope that's helpful for maybe some parents who are adopting for the first time, wondering like, how is this going to happen? How are things going to work out? You know, sometimes that connection, that bonding really is instant. There's no issue. People didn't go through a hard time with that, and sometimes sometimes they never really actually bond and connect. But remember also that you are providing a home and a safe place for a child, and you know, to say like, oh geez, we're just not like bonding as a family, we're not bonding, we're not connecting. Well, you know, that's unfortunate, but you know, I bet you have given this child a much better life than they would have had otherwise. You're providing a support system for them, and maybe they don't especially seem grateful for it, but it will make a huge difference in their lives in the future. So, you know, don't get too caught up in the fact that your relationship isn't the exact same as it would have been with potentially a natural born child. But even natural born children, you know how ornery they can be sometimes, especially going into teenage years. Suddenly they're like, you're not my mom anymore. So there's that too. All right, well, I'll probably put in some little videos right after this, me talking about going over to a sushi restaurant. It's a fun, fancy sushi restaurant we found. All right, take care, you guys. Bye.